Hey
Awesome.
everybody, welcome to episode 77 of the All JuveCast. We're coming off our little 4-0 thrashing on Calgary, which is nice to see. That's a nice way to kick off 2020. And going to kick it off with a first timer on the podcast here. Mehran, how are you doing, my man?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great.
That's awesome.
Thanks for the invite.
Oh, absolutely, man. Absolutely. Thanks. Well, thanks for reaching out, man. I appreciate it. And you know the tradition around here. First timers, we like to hear everyone's story on how they became a fan of Juventus. So I'd love to know how you became a Juventino, Moran.
Sure. So I feel like my story is really unique because of the player who made me become like a Juve fan is not everybody else's. I feel like I was born and kind of like grew up like in Tehran, Iran, and as I was growing up, like I remember I was like 7 or 8 years old, and I was always like gravitated towards like players with like a unique look. And I remember at that time we had like the Dutch trio playing for Netherlands or Holland national team, like Ruud Gullit and Frank Rijkaard and Van Basten. And out of three, I loved Ruud Gullit just because of like his hair, and I was like a little kid, so I really liked him, and that made me become like a Netherlands national team fan. So, because like in Iran, like we always had our own national team, but it wasn't as strong. So we were always like watching World Cup, and like at the time I wasn't aware of like I mean but I wasn't watching like Champions League. I was just like more watching World Cup, and I remember I was a big fan of like Netherlands just because of the trio, and of course like Ruud Gullit. And when I was playing like football myself, I always tried to mimic him and just like have my hair go long and just like be someone like him.
Yeah.
And I remember and this is when I was like a little, and then when I grow up, I still had that soft spot for players who would kind of like look similar to Ruud Gullit. And Edgar Davids was the one who I fell in love with. So he was playing in the mid, just like Ruud Gullit, and I remember I really liked him. The 1998 World Cup, I remember I was rooting for Netherlands so hard, and when they got knocked out by Brazil in like the semifinal, I was so upset. I cried that night. I was like, I don't know, like 14 and 15 years old, and I just like I cried, and for like weeks I was just like sad because they got like knocked out. And then I think around the same time, all the Italian football players were also like really good in like fashion and like hairstyle, or like I remember like there was like this poster of Del Piero for Persol sunglasses.
Yeah.
And every time like in Iran, when we used to go to like the barber shops, I remember it was just like posters of like Del Piero, and you would just like go there and say, "Can you just like cut my hair so that I look like this guy in this like poster?" So it was that, and also like he had in one of those like posters, he had like a hairdo and like a beard that was kind of like trim, like really
Yeah.
thin.
Yeah.
And so I remember that I was like, oh, I really like this guy, and then I watched him playing, and I'm like, oh my god, he is the deal. And then so all of a sudden I realized, oh, when Juventus got like Edgar David,
Yeah.
I'm like, so there you go. Because I wasn't rooting for like a European club, and then all of a sudden, like two of my most favorite players in the world were playing for this club, and then I learned more about like Juventus. So I became a Juventus fan.
That's
That's the
cool.
story.
That's awesome, man. And I love the fact that, you're one of the first to bring up Edgar Davids as being one of the reasons, man. Davids was amazing, man. When we
He
had
was.
Zidane, Davids in there, it was a treat, man. That's pretty cool. Uh,
Yep.
I want to ask you, number one, I like the kit that you're wearing. Is there a player on the back of it?
Yes. It's a number
Nice.
21 Pirlo.
Nice. I love that kit. Um,
Yeah. It's
now,
one of my favorites too.
before we get to the recap, how do you usually watch a match? Where do you usually go for matches? Is it in the comfort of your own home? Do you have any superstitions that you like to practice on match days?
Well, I tell you this. I love to watch games with people, like other people, like Juventus fans or like other teams fans. But, my family and I, we moved here to the U.S. like only 8 years ago. So we don't have like relatives here. We have friends, and just none of them are just like Juve fans. So I just like watch games by myself at home. But like I feel like it was 2 years ago, 3 years ago that I learned about like Saeed and Juve SoCal fan club. So at the time I used to live in like Orange County, which is very close to like LA, and I know they have all their gatherings like either in LA or like Long Beach. So shout out to Saeed and his wonderful like fan club. So I watched just one game with them in Long Beach, and that was like the Juve Lazio game where Dybala missed that penalty kick in the 90th or 92nd minute.
Yeah.
So that was the only game that I watched with a group of fans. But then after that, I really wanted to continue, watching games with them. But then I moved for work. I had to move to San Diego. So right now I'm kind of like too far from that. But otherwise, I would have just joined them every single match.
Yeah. Well, that's cool.
And
I love I love everybody from Juve SoCal. That's a great fan club. Saeed's an absolute beauty too. I've been trying to make it work so I can go down and make a trip, especially at Del Piero's restaurant. I gotta get there. But no, that's great. Thanks for sharing. So, do you have any superstitions or any routines that you like to do on match days?
Tell me about it. I do. Like this jersey, I love this jersey, but it's last time I wore it, I was wearing it watching the game was actually the Cardiff final and Champions League final that we lost. So, and I'm like, I will never watch this. Wear this like watching the game ever again. So, and I'm really superstitious. Usually, I sit down and like if like halfway through I realize, oh, I'm not wearing like a jersey. I wouldn't go get a jersey because I feel like that's like bad luck. So it's just I am like superstitious.
That's what's funny is I vividly remember Cardiff and watching that, and I haven't worn that jersey that I was wearing at that time since, and it was the 05-06 home jersey. I love that jersey, and I can't wear it. I can't, like, it's bad. I'll wear it on non-game days just if I'm doing something, but when we're playing, I can't wear that kit. That's funny.
There's also something about like because I still kind of like play football, like friendly games like Thursday nights, and it's interestingly like number 5 is my lucky number.
Yeah.
So like I feel like last year or 2 years ago I got like Pjanic's jersey like with number 5.
Yeah.
And I was wearing that, and this is last year's jersey, like home jersey. And every time I wear that jersey, I score or I have an assist.
Nice.
And every time I wear like a Pirlo jersey, it's just like bad luck. Because I have like so many like Pirlo jerseys, and I only have like one white Pjanic's jersey. I feel like I need to buy more jerseys with number 5. I hope like Pjanic, keep playing well. Because last year I really really loved that I got like his jersey, but then eventually, he got like out of form, and like I was
Yeah.
one of like his biggest critics
We
towards the
had
end of the
a we had a
season last year.
bunch of guys kind of run into some issues with form
Yeah,
there though, so it's hard to put it on him, but yeah, and that'll probably come up in this match too because I saw a
sure.
couple interesting comments, but yeah, without further ado, let's get to the recap here with Calgary, Mehran. So we saw the starting 11, and it was Wojciech Szczesny in goal. We had Quadrado on the right, Demiral and Bonucci in the middle. We had Sandro on the left. Our midfield was Matuidi, Pjanic, and Rabiot, and we had Ramsey with the front two of Ronaldo and Dybala. My initial gut reaction on the lineup was I had absolutely zero issues with it, other than the fact I was surprised. I still didn't have an issue with it, but I was surprised that Matthias de Ligt wasn't in the lineup, being fit, and just being out for a while. I thought, it's off a break anyways. All our guys are technically going to have not played for quite some time. Get him in there now. Now that he's fit again, and that was the only thing I really picked out of that lineup. Was I was surprised that again it went to Demiral. Calgary is having a pretty good season by their account for sure. Maybe Sarri just wanted to continue it, but what were your thoughts on the lineup?
Pretty much the same thing. Just the Delict was a little bit like shocking to me,
Yeah.
because we know like his price tag, and that he was a little bit like sensitive in the beginning of the season, where Chiellini was still like healthy, and he didn't get like playing time. I'm sure it's gonna have some impact on his performance in the future. Hopefully in a positive way.
Yeah.
But I feel like Sarri needs to kind of like rotate. I think the only hesitation from him is just he just wants to have some continuity and hopefully get like a clean sheet, which happened today.
Yeah.
But I feel like he was just chasing that like clean sheet, and But to be honest, if you ask me who I would like play again, like next to Bonucci in like a crucial game, like a Champions League game, I would go with De Ligt, even though like Demiral is playing well, but I would just like go with De Ligt just because of his experience, and I know that he has like a phenomenal bright future in front of him.
Yeah.
So I just don't want
to be honest, I think both of them do, Mehran, De Ligt and Demiral.
Yeah, true.
What Demiral's doing with Turkey nationally is incredible. Going up against tough squads, and he is the real deal. And I like him because they're two completely contrasting styles. And to be honest, I wouldn't mind actually seeing Demiral and De Ligt as a pair for one match. Given the right opponent and a home match, I'd actually like to see the two of them play together. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the lineup. We'll get to the game here, and I think it was about 8 minutes in, we had a cross from Quadrado that nobody gets to the end of it, and then Sandro comes in and just blasts it to the sky. But it was pretty good to see because we had a penetrating run from Quadrado, and it was early on. We were really looked lively at the start, and it was good to see. And then all of a sudden, same thing. We kind of have a bunch of possession, but not a whole lot coming of it. 21st minute. I'd love to know how there was no foul on this. Dybala just gets hacked. So, just brutal. Just outside the area, no call. But again, just a lot of possession. We're getting in some decent areas, but it looks like we just don't know in that final third what the next move is. Or runs are happening, but they're just still not getting rewarded. In the 34th minute, we get a header off a corner kick by Demiral, and it goes off the bar. Unlucky there. And we kind of run into halftime. Through all this, it was just a lot of possession, but nothing really coming from it. And throughout that first half, it felt funny to me because it still looked through just counterattacking that Calgary was almost more likely to score than we were, even though we dominated possession. Other than the first opening, like kind of 12 minutes, our pace just kind of like really slowed down. And we kept everything in front of Cagliari, who did it. They just came and they parked the bus and they were looking for counters. That's what a lot of these sides do against Juve. We know it. And to be honest, we just haven't been able to figure out how to open them up, but we move the ball so slow. And it's the same story, and I've said it a million times, but we don't want to go flank to flank or from one Mezzala to the opposite flank without making every pass along the way, which is so easy to defend. But the odd times we do, and that's why I kind of picked out that one Quadrado one, the odd times we get the ball quick there, we have the ability to run at the defenses, and that's what's going to cause some confusion and get us in there. But the first half was pretty frustrating from my end. How did you feel after that first half?
I feel like I saw like a tweet from you about like we continue struggling against like the team that parked the bus in front of us, and I feel part of it is because of the formation. I feel like the 4-3-1-2. It seems like it's not the right formation against the teams that are kind of like are defensive minded or park the bus. I feel like if you can kind of like have the players, of course, like Douglas Costa was injured, and Bernardeschi has been out of form since forever. But these like wingers that we have, if we can have them fit, I feel like when that happens, or if you know that teams would just like face us with that mentality, I should have the 4-3-3 with two wingers playing, and I feel like that would basically break the defensive line better or easier. And also, I kind of like noticed that it's interesting because when we have like Quadrado playing as the right back, and with knowing that he is naturally playing, more in the opposition's field and more advanced, and just like next time you watch the game that he plays at the same time as like Alexandra, you can tell the difference that how advanced he plays versus how defensive-minded Sandro is playing. And I feel like when the game is locked, we want Alexandro to play more forward and just have more impact or helping the attack better. So he like the way I see it is like he's waiting in our half to get the ball and then move with the ball, versus when player like Quadrado is playing on flanks, like he runs into the space and then get the ball along the run. But like Alexandro is playing like really passive, which I don't like. I feel like, what's your take on that?
I feel like, and I've touched on it, what we end up doing is we kind of create that ourselves based on the fact that we support our offense with the Metzalas instead of one central midfielder. I feel if we played a two central defensive midfielder system, those flanks would have more freedom to kind of press up with that support behind them. Because when we push with Matuidi and or Rabiot and just keep Pjanic back, there's not enough cover back there. So I feel like that's why we kind of always get into these clusters where we look so congested in these little areas. And I'd like to see a switch where we actually have two central defensive midfielders and then have one ahead to create that triangle. And then I think we should almost just put the forwards. It would essentially create two wingers and then one forward up top, and you'd still have like a diamond formation out of the middle. But I think it would just make so much more sense. Essentially, it would look like a 4-2-3-1, but I don't know. It just makes more sense to me, and then we can get those flanks up there making the runs, because you could see what started to happen. Ronaldo and Dybala in the second half continuously started coming way out wide to the flank. When they possessed the ball, they would either go back in the middle to Pjanic, and either the overlapping run or one of those Metsalas would be able to sneak in behind. The balls weren't always rewarded there, but they were finding space and pockets based from these guys dropping back. And you could see in the second half when Pjanic started getting the ball after those guys come out to the wide, it drew the defense out wide enough. Pjanic would play side to side. He would collect the ball, and then the opposite forward would start dropping down, and Ramsey would start to rotate in behind. Not only Ramsey, sometimes it was Matuidi, sometimes it was Rabiot, but that's what they started doing. We started seeing that sequence really early on in this season, and it's been non-existent for quite some time. But you could see that today in the second half they started doing that, and it was a way for them to create a little bit of space in behind the D. But again, in the second half, we picked up the pace, and in the 48th, we still found a goal, but it was more Cagliari being asleep at the wheel. Really bad pass across that our Super Samurai jumped on and ends up beating Olsen and scoring there, Ronaldo. It must have been that iPad Nano that he showed up with, or iPod Nano there. Geez, man, that was one hell of a look with his new little haircut and those glasses and the little iPod Nano there. I was like, oh, man, what is going on there? But it worked, I'll tell you that. But yeah, 48, yes. We jump on 1-0, feels good. We maintained possession after that. We are still controlling possession. We have a little more pace to our game than the first half, but still, ultimately, there's not a lot of creation still, though. Like, we picked up our pace a bit, and still, for whatever reason, our shot selection's very poor, and we seem to still find it hard to get into quality scoring areas. In the 60th minute, 12 minutes after we go up 1-0, Cagliari on a counter actually forces they get a great header on a counter, and Szczesny's forced into a save, and it's just frustrating because, again, we had so much possession leading up to it, and out of nothing, really, they almost score. And this is the thing that's like frustrating for us because you're controlling the game, but we just still cannot create quality chances. And shortly after this, a little while after, Dybala, he finds the ball. He treats it like a slalom ski course, and he just like dribbles through all these guys. Rog, who was a foul machine in this one, picks up the foul. We get the PK. Ronaldo steps up, smashes that 2-0. And yeah, everybody's happy. Even to your app, I'm happy. But again, here's a goal that's created out of individual brilliance from Dybala. It was nice for us to get the ball into that area. But after that, Dybala really had nowhere to go or anything to do. So what he did was just great skill from him, right? But again, it's not really anything we did as a team, and that's the thing I'm still trying to find, is that we still, when it comes to creating chances as a team, as a unit, we're kind of struggling still there, right? Like this little thing with Dybala, like I said, it was awesome to get the ball into that spot. Rabiot did great. Rabiot had a solid game, in my opinion. But yeah, in the 78th minute, Cagliari got a chance. The player tried to backheel it. Demiral was in behind there. As soon as that play happened, Demiral, Bonucci, and Pjanic were all three shouting at each other. And the confusion was so evident, on assignments and what was going on there. And I'm just thinking to myself, Cagliari came at us with the most straightforward game plan that you possibly could. And they didn't do anything special. They weren't throwing players into our area. So the fact that we were outmanning them in our area and still had that much confusion, I was a little concerned about it. let's stop at the 78th minute here. It's 2-0 for Juve, and I see this happen. Did you happen to notice this in the match?
I do. I do. And I feel like if you go back and watch Alexander's games, I feel like even this one, the ball came in from his side, and like he's been struggling lately. I don't know why. He's just like, he feels like he's kind of like out of form. I understand, like, Szczesny was in his recent interview. He mentioned that like the defense line, including himself, they have to pick up, and they don't have to give up like goals, and they need to hit clean sheets just because. And he mentioned that the team with the least amount of goals conceded would typically win the title in Italy, and we really need to improve on that front. And I feel like the basically the frustration between those three players that you mentioned was about the same thing. It was just like, okay, we should not give them like these opportunities to score. It could have been just like they could have scored easily, and so the header that Simeone had, it was just I watched that like 2-3 times. It was Quadrado. He's been playing great. I'm not his biggest fan, but I can't criticize him this season. We asked him to play in like a new role, a new position, and he's been doing great. It's just it's his first season playing in that role, so sometimes he's playing out of position. So when he's playing like defense, sometimes he's just like wandering around like half, trying to learn how to do so he's struggling with the positioning in the defensive mode. So and I'm glad that he had an impact on Simeone, so he kind of like blocked his view or something that he couldn't hit it like perfectly. But like 5 seconds before that, the way he was kind of like moving was out of position, and an experienced player in that position would have kind of like played it better.
Yeah,
but it's like you're right. It's kind of like alarming. Like, what if this happens in like a Champions League like knockout stage?
Well, it's just
game?
Like I said, Cagliari played a pretty straightforward match, and honestly, they were pretty toothless. They were coming at us at counters. They shouldn't have looked dangerous at all with such little possession and what they were doing. And when we got the 2-0 lead, we actually dropped off quite a bit, and we were allowing way too much. A lot of people were, and this is the thing, I had to leave for work. So I caught the first half. And then when I got back from work, I watched the second half. And based on Twitter, I would think that we had the best second half I've ever seen Juventus play, based on reactions. I watched it and I was thinking, really? Like, it's great that we finished 4-0, but honestly, it wasn't the best. Let's keep going with some goals, and then I'll break down why I feel that way. The 80th minute, Higuain makes a great run. CR7 rewards it. He goes 1v1. These are positions. This is how we should be going. And that was a pretty soft goal from Cagliari too. I mean, the ball was in Szczesny's feet. He made one play to Sandro. Sandro found Ronaldo on the wing, and Higuain just went free and clear. And there was nobody else with him, and they had two center backs there, and the other center back, I'm surprised he didn't get involved in the play and come in and help his defender, but he didn't, and Higuain capitalized and scored. And then about a minute later, I don't even know how it started because they were still showing the replay of Higuain's goal. And then I just see Costa running at this defense, slotting it over to Ronaldo, and he puts it home. And that's game, 4-0. But the reason I say the second half, I was surprised after seeing all the reactions out there, because we had a huge drop-off when it was 2-0. The first goal was nothing from our doing. other than Ronaldo being Johnny on the spot, capitalizing on a very poor pass from Cagliari defender. The second goal, again, Dybala like running and weaving in out of 3 or 4 defenders, incredible. Gets a PK. Our the third there, with Higuain, right?
Yeah.
Like, for them to leave him that free and clear is just, it's crazy to me. But anyways, nothing special. He just gets a break. Cagliari was trying to push a little harder. They got caught on that one. And then that fourth, yeah, like I say, Costa running at the D, slotting it over to Ronaldo. That's good to see. We need more of that. I've talked about that. I'd love to know what happened. I think it would have had to have been another turnover by Cagliari, and unfortunately it would have been to the wrong guy because Costa was on fresh legs and he just bolted straight down. He had all 3 defenders running back, and Ronaldo was able to just find a clean lane off the wing there. That's what we need to do. We need to play with pace. This game kind of showed exactly what's been so frustrating for so many of us. When we try to just manage a game and slow right down, we're terrible. Like, it's clear as day. Like, we that's when we are very susceptible to allowing goals and whatnot, and we just can't switch off like that. We need to play at a good pace, and we need to be smart about how we play and get the players in the right positions to succeed. So we talked about Dybala on his goal. Great for us to get him in there, top of the area. That's where he needs to be. In the first half, he was dropping far too deep to get the ball, and then he was doing a good job of switching the field and allowing Sandro to. He kept finding Sandro and allowing him to push the field up for us to gain space in their end. But we need to get him in and around the area where he can make stuff happen like that and get those fouls, draw those fouls, get the free kicks. Dybala had a great free kick in the second half. There was a good save from Olsen. He probably didn't put it over to the post as much as he would have liked, I'm sure. But that's what we need to do. Ronaldo, we need to get him running at defenses. Costa needs to be running at defenses. When we play too slow, we can't get in those positions because it's too easy for the defenders to set up, and we play a game right in front of them. You know what I mean? And this second half, with everybody raving about how well we played, I think we just capitalized. I don't think we necessarily played really a hell of a lot better than we have in most matches. We just found goals. And it might have just put the blinders on. But what are your thoughts on me saying that?
I like after watching the game, I just remember you, complaining about our conversion rate, and I'm like, today was the exact opposite.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like we had, 5-6 chances and we converted 4.
Yeah. Which
was great to see. I hope it happens every game, but I kind of wanted to talk about 2 things. First is about Sarri's system. And second is about basically Dybala. I'm going to talk about Dybala's one first because I don't know if you noticed, but when he was about to get subbed out, he had a really good chance to have an assist and give a pass to either Ronaldo or to the left side. I don't remember who was on the left side, but instead of doing that, I feel like he was maybe frustrated that he was getting subbed off or what, but he just had a shot to nowhere, right? And we missed that opportunity, and that reminded me of that missed opportunity in I believe it was the Lazio game where he had Ronaldo on his left, and we were the game was a tie, or we were ahead, or we were actually ahead. He didn't give that pass, and then we ended up losing that match. So he's been doing great this season, no complaint there. But I feel like he needs to understand that big teams like Real Madrid or Barcelona or Bayern Munich, when they play these games Cagliari, they always score 4, 5 goals, and we keep like struggling there. It's just we need to change that mentality. So that's my rant about like Bala. I feel like he needs improvement there. I understand you're getting like stopped off. You're like 2 goals ahead, so you want to rest. It's fine. It's not the end of the world. So just like keep your cool and just like give your pass and do your job. Just like keep being focused.
And I don't think it. I don't think he did that out of frustration or whatnot. He legitimately, like, the keeper was way out. He legitimately tried to go over him, but it was a bad play. He had Ramsey running up. He had Ronaldo on the other side. He just has to dish that and keep the play going. But yeah,
got it. And the next thing is about like Sarri's system, because I hear here and there about what's Sarri's system, like what is this about? So and I can ask you and you can testify this. I feel like based on what I'm seeing from Sarri's play, it's just like keep position, having one touch passes, right? And then you do that until you see an opportunity, and then you make it through pass. I feel like this is how it works. You keep the position, you hold the position, you don't lose the ball like close to your half where they can counter, and that's critical, because I feel like Rabiot, where you said like he had a great game, but I feel like one thing that people warned me on it is that he would lose position when he shouldn't, and those would usually get back and we concede. So he needs improvement there. But this whole Sarri ball is just like based on position and just like creating like triangles and squares and just one touch passes until somebody sees an opportunity, and people, I mean, like the players have to move until something opens up where they can give like a through ball to like a forward or a player with a better position, so they can kind of like do something in the attack. And I feel like in that system, the trequartista role, or that number 10, is really important. I feel like today Ramsey didn't play bad, but he wasn't that great either. We had like Bernardeschi playing in that position, which was like it wasn't a disaster, but it was
pretty close
bad.
to it.
It was like really frustrating to watch. He had no idea what's going on in that position, and maybe it's because it's been, I can't remember when you was playing with that role last time, right? We've been playing in different formations without that trequartista role.
Yeah.
And this season we introduced that position, and we were asking players to play there, and like they're not familiar with playing there.
I get what you're saying. And Sarri's system, like, I mean, it's great when it works, because you're absolutely right. You'll see somebody, they'll start making these short passes to draw the defense in. You're trying to suck them in, and while other guys are moving to create penetration and just find something else, and then the players that were coming up short need to overlap at that point. But yeah, it's all about movement. But the thing is that we still run into is we still try to make those plays from certain guys, mainly Pjanic, sometimes Ronaldo. And the problem is, and this is why I say, it's nothing, this second half, out of what I was hearing out there, like you touched on it, you hit it right on the head. Today was just the opposite, because we converted, for 4 goals. But to me, the team, synchronicity is still not there. We're still not in sync. And you see that because there's runs being made that are unrewarded. And for instance, Higuain makes a great run on his goal. When Sandro plays that ball to Ronaldo, instantly in my mind, I thought Ronaldo was going to push it back to Matuidi, who was all alone in front of him, and then make his run because the defender was coming up on Ronaldo's back. Ronaldo turned, that defender stopped, and then backed up. As he started to retreat, Ronaldo hits the pass. If Ronaldo drops that pass to Matuidi, does Matuidi even have the guts to try and make that through ball? Or does he quickly try to find... And this is one of the things I'm talking about. This is why we got to start thinking about this. And I see it so many times, and I saw it a bunch of times in this game, where Matuidi had the ball. He had opportunities to make a pass. You knew. I could tell what's going on in his mind, and it's he knows he can't make it. He knows he can't make that pass. And that hurts us. It hurts us when we limit our creation to like one or two guys. That hurts. I've talked about this, I don't know, 6, maybe 7 episodes ago, where I said, ultimately, you know, you are as good as your weakest link. And we got to play the guys and give them the freedom to express themselves and start playing to their capabilities and doing what they need to do. In my opinion, moving forward, I think we should see, and you and I have talked about it, a midfield of Rabiot, Pjanic, and Bentancur. And honestly, like, I want to see Pjanic up the field. When he started pushing further up, and we talk about those short passes with Sarri, and what it did is it allowed him to creep up and start just pinching a little more. And then he gets into these positions where he can spray the ball out there and find guys in dangerous areas and give and goes and whatnot. He needs to be a player further up. Doing this, you know, makes sense because Rabiot, Pjanic, and Bentancur could all play that regista role that we're looking for. I personally believe Rabiot can do it as well. Bentancur had a very good outing the last time Sarri tried it too. And Bentancur's just been having an excellent season, in my opinion. Those three, and if a team wants to lock in on Pjanic, start moving him around and let one of the other guys rotate in. We talked about it. It just makes sense. Because then all of a sudden, if you take your focal point and he's moving somewhere else, it causes confusion. You know, and the other team's going to have to be like, oh, wait a second. Like, now all of a sudden they're running off of Bentancur. Or now all of a sudden they're running off Rabiot. You know what? We can't lock in on one guy. You know? But that's the thing. I think about that. I see the way we play, and I see us focus on, you know, or sorry, not focus on, but just not making passes, or at least attempting to make these through balls that we really should be, because we're trying to get it to like one guy or two guys. We just don't have the belief. And if a guy honestly is playing, you know, for Juventus and doesn't have the confidence to reward a teammate on a great run, should he really be on the pitch for us? You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, I get all the defensive things, you know, I get the work rate, and I'm not just picking on Matuidi because I see a lot of players do it. I see Sandro do it a bunch.
Or Emre Can.
Yeah, these guys just not rewarding players for great runs. And this brings me back, all the way back to the first point that we were discussing earlier on. Why not go to 2 central defensive mids if that's the way these guys are going to play? If you're going to play guys, you know, why are we pressing with them up if they don't have the confidence to splash that ball around the way they're supposed to? Let's just get Pjanic up there because he will do it, you know? Benton, it just, I don't know. I think we just need to change that up because I see it so much and it's frustrating. Bernardeschi, for how much flack he gets, and I've given him a lot, you know, he makes a lot of really good runs. But the problem is nobody will give him that ball. No, he just will not get that ball. Because usually when he makes them, it's Blaze or Emery on the ball, and they ain't going to make it. Yeah. You know? It's just something I see. But yeah.
It's just talking about this trio of like midfielders that we talked about, like Rabiot, Pjanic, and Bentancur. It's just thinking about these three. How versatile can our midfield get. Like they can rotate, but they can all three of them can play in all three positions.
Yeah.
If we would want to just play with like two defensive mids, we can play Rabiot and Bentancur as those positions, and we can have like Pjanic play ahead of them, or if you're playing with one Regista and like two Malas, they can all play in the three positions. So it can, like when the game is just like locked, when they're targeting one player, they can all switch, and it would make a lot more sense.
Yeah,
I feel like
I agree.
I feel like Sarri will implement this. It's just this whole Bentancur being suspended and he cannot play right now. Otherwise, he would have played. I feel like he would have played ahead of like Matuidi.
Yeah.
This game.
Yeah. Yeah, he's got his ban, and I think he would have been in there too. But I think, moving forward, that's going to be the R3 for sure. You know? It's going to be Rabiot, it's going to be Pjanic, and it's going to be Bentancur. Let's talk about some topics you wanted to talk about, Mehran. You wanted to speak a bit on Sarri in versus Sarri out. Go for it, man. I'm giving you the open floor here, and let's hear your thoughts.
No problem. So, and I appreciate you giving me this opportunity. I'm Sarri in, at least for this season, just because we need to give him the fair chance. We can all settle for like the Champions League right now versus like Serie A. And we talked about this offline. I would settle for like the Champions League right now. And even though like I know Merda is our contender, and I that's the worst thing I want. But we got to get that like monkey off of our backs. And if you look at like what happened for Champions League, we were the first team out of the group. We played well. We had two tough games versus Atletico Madrid, which is a great team. And we played well over there. I feel like Sarri, and this goes back to the root of my conversation. It was a little bit like I was puzzled by the decision that the club made by sacking Allegri without having like a plan. Because if you look at it, like we like he won everything for us except for the Champions League, and then we sacked him without having a replacement, and that's so unlike Juve. And I'm like, what's going on? I still feel like there's a chance that in their mind we're in like a transition year. I mean, who knows? That might be the case too. Right now, we are trying to implement Sarri's system. It's different than Allegri's, and if we're gonna get like a better coach down the road, like Pochettino or like Guardiola, you cannot switch from Allegri's system to Guardiola and Pochettino without having like a dip. And I feel like they're like, okay, maybe it's not realistic to get one of those two. They're not available. So let's try the next best thing, which was like Sarri. It was the closest to their systems, and let's have him and give him like a fair chance. Maybe it works. I feel like if Sarri wins the Champions League with us, would you think that the management would sack Sarri? I don't think so, because that was their goal.
Absolutely not.
So,
And to me, it makes more sense that we got rid of Allegri, even if it was without a plan, than hiring Sarri just as a bridge gap to Poch or Pep or something. It makes more sense that we wanted to change a direction, because even if we're going to treat this like a business, your product is still what you produce on the pitch, and it was pretty rough to watch. So granted, with the more exposure that we're getting, it just makes sense that Agnelli would not want this club playing this way, because it's bad business. Now all of a sudden you've got all these followers that Ronaldo carries around. They're watching us and they're like, Jesus, they play brutal. And you know what? They're right. It was pretty bad. That makes more sense to me, that we would just want a style change and a new approach and a new mentality, which Sarri offers that offensive mentality and style. That makes more sense to me than wanting to do that, even if they knew he wasn't a lock and didn't know which manager they would get. But I don't think they're hiring Sarri with the intention of only having him for like a season to bridge the gap to going to like Poch or Pep.
No.
I think he's given an honest go. However, if we go trophyless, I think you have to sack him.
They will sack him. I guarantee that.
You don't
There's
think
no
you
way
don't
they
you
keep
don't
him
think
if
you don't
we go
think
trophyless.
Juve would sack him if we went trophyless?
I absolutely think they will sack him if we go trophyless.
Yes. Okay.
For
sorry.
sure, 100%.
Yeah. I got. Sorry, I misunderstood you. I thought you said they won't sack him. Okay.
No, they will for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. No, he has to be sacked, in my opinion. If we go trophyless, he has to be sacked. This club's good now.
And it depends on the available options too. But I feel like Pochettino is available right now, and I feel like Guardiola can be available too. And I feel like they give him their his fair chance to. They were like, even if he had like Guardiola or after working under Allegri for like 5 years, I don't think we could play their style the first year.
Yeah.
Right? Because they were like, there's going to be like a transition period from that playing that like defensive style towards like offensive style, and maybe we do that with like Sarri, and we give him like a fair share. If it works out, perfect. He's Italian, it's working great. We keep him. If it wouldn't, then we already had our transition year, and now with that like offensive mentality, we can probably hire like another coach with the same mentality.
Yeah. No, let's talk the next topic, transfers. January versus the summer. You wanted to touch on a few moves that you would like to see and whatnot. So go ahead, Mehran. Let's hear some transfers. Yeah.
So first of all, I wanted to talk about this Kulusevski transfer. Here's the thing. I feel like Juve fan base is the most opinionated fan base ever, and maybe I'm biased, but it's just we have, and because I've been seeing some tweets from some of our friends that I really like them. I follow them, and they're frustrated with us, paying like 35 million plus 9 million for Kulusevski. And to me, it's just like, you either wait until the price tag is at like 70, 80 million, or you gamble, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like we need to change the strategy from, waiting for, players available on free. They're not free, or Bosman transfers. And we should just like, we should stop doing that. We should just target players that are young and with like a bright future, like Kulusevski, and just like those at like a reasonable price.
Yeah.
I feel like 35 million for a talent like him is reasonable. If right now they do the same thing with like Tonali, like they pay like, I don't know, like 35, 45 million for him, I would be all for that too. It's just, we need to understand, you either wait too long, or you just like,
you can't stop trying to take chances on prospects. You still have to do that. People have to realize too, this money is going to be paid out over 5 years, so it's really peanuts for Juve in the grand scheme of things. Tonali, I'm all over that. We've missed out on a couple good Italian midfielders. I'd like to see him come back or come over to us. Zaniolo, I would be into. Pellegrini, I've talked about him on the last podcast. Like, there's another guy sitting around there with like a 30 million release clause. I would jump on that. But yeah,
Yep.
these are all moves I think we should be doing. I'm okay with Bosman transfers if it makes sense. I thought Rabiot was a great one because he's what, 25, 26 years old. I'm okay with that. That's a good one. I didn't have any problems with Ramsey. It's always a question mark with him because we know his injury status and how chronic it is. Like, he just gets injuries all the time. But I was still okay with these moves. And people got to realize, too, we brought in Delict, which was a big ticket item. And we had Ronaldo, and his wage is big, too. So there are some limitations there. Delict, we picked up Demirol for next to nothing. There's already teams all over us. Juve would be silly to sell him, in my opinion. The latest that I've heard from Juve is that they will not be releasing him. There's also a lot of talk now picking up that apparently Emre Can will not be getting transferred. So we'll see what happens there. That was a guy heavily linked with the move out. We all know he's not on the Champions League list. He's made it very apparent how he feels about that. Rabiot's also been linked with some transfer news. And I'd be very, very surprised there. And I think, honestly, I can't see that happening, especially with the performances he's been putting up lately and being on an upwards trend. I can't see that happening. I don't think, honestly, we're going to see a whole lot this January window. Us Juventini, of course, if, we could have our pick, we know what kind of moves we would do and who we'd bring in. But honestly, I would prepare ourselves with the news that Chiellini is coming back in February to probably sell Rugani. And I still think there's a good shot we sell Emre Can. And I think that's about it. There's a lot of talk about Eriksen being available for 20 million euros. Man, I think if he comes in, like, Ramsey's pretty much on the outs, because I would pick Eriksen over Ramsey. He's quite a bit more durable. I think he'd fill that role that we're trying to play Ramsey in, that 10 role, a lot better than him. But Ramsey could go to a box-to-box and be a midfielder in there. But honestly, right now, I think our best midfield is, as we said, Pjanic, Bentancur, and Rabiot. I don't really know about this Eriksen thing. And then right now is such a funny time because Merda is linked to like all the same players we are, and it's just it's kind of comical. But I wouldn't expect too much out of Juve than maybe selling a couple guys. I don't honestly think there's going to be anybody coming in. But that's just what I think is going to happen.
But I'm also like hoping that, because we're paying all these like really inflated or like super high salaries for players like Emre Can, Rabiot, or like Ramsey. Like, if somebody other than Juve had hired like Emre Can, they were not paying him what we are paying him right now. Based on what we are seeing from him, and to me, he's like the biggest loser. He was playing for Liverpool, right? He was in their starting lineup that season, and then he left them, joined, Juventus, and then next year, and right now he was this season he was out of like the Champions League list. Whereas like Liverpool, right after he left them, they won the Champions League without him the next year. So, and just like watching him play, he's not that player who would have that like high salary on their books. So I'm hoping that Juve uses these players like Rabiot I hope they worked. I hope they play great. That's my first hope. But if they won't, like Emre Can, I'm hoping at least Juve use them as some counterparts to get, price tags of players like, I don't know, Pogba more reasonable, and hopefully use those to get like players like in their caliber.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, obviously that's what we want to see happen. I mean, there's a lot of ins and outs. Pellegrini, actually, we picked Cagliari today. How good did he look? I thought he
Yeah,
looked good. Really, really good.
he looked great. He looked great. That Nutmeg versus like Quadrado, it was. I'm like, oh, he's not gonna like that.
We got to get that kid in our kit.
Yeah.
Like he's
Yep.
he's he's ready. I
Yep.
think he should be playing. I've been saying for a while. Like if we had the opportunity in January, that's what I would have loved to see is bring him back, actually put him in
Yep.
the lineup, and give Sandro some competition.
Absolutely.
Because that'll bring the best out of Sandro. Even last year, Spinazzola took him to the wire, and Spinazzola started out playing him, and then Sandro picked his game up.
To be honest, that should be a priority. Give competition to Sandro because I feel like he's just like so relaxed over there,
Yeah,
playing whatever he wants. If he can give him some competition, actually, Mattia DeCilio is my least favorite player. But the other day he played as like a left back, and he played actually good.
he played good. Yeah,
Maybe, yeah. So maybe we just like keep playing him over there just to motivate Sandro.
yeah, maybe. He needs competition. He seems to pick up his game when he's, I don't know, tested or whatnot, or we start going to other guys. Spinazzola was out playing him last year. I just remember it vividly. And then all of a sudden, when Sandro came back for a couple of matches, he looked like the Sandro, we fell in love with when he was balling. But see what happens there. We're gonna finish up with a little topic that got some fans a little heated, and it was about someone asking who Juve's biggest traitor is. And we had some Juventini that just don't even want to get involved. They just don't want to, categorize anybody like that. And I understand it, because even how we may feel about some of these guys, they did give a lot to the shirt and offered some great moments. For me, though, I don't seem to have that problem. And I can say who I think the biggest traitor is. For me, it's hands down Antonio Conte. You have a lot of fans that say, well, why? Because now he's coaching Merda and other coaches have done that. And they want to bring in Lippi and, even Trap and whatnot. And the thing is, you can go and coach another club. That's not an issue. But after being a player as well for Juve, for as long as Conte was, after wearing the armband as Capitano for Juve, knowing full well what happened in 2006, being a coach that helped bring us back from the depths that we were at after what had happened and sticking it to them and taking over what is ours, he knew damn well what was happening. And he went and took a job with them. He could have went to other clubs. And I get that people want to defend and say, well, it's, they have a bigger amount of money that they could spend for him and he's better chance of success. It doesn't matter. It's a slap in the face to Juventini after 2006 to go to that club. And you know what? If people want to defend Conte, that's fine. You can defend him. But he knew what wrath was going to come to him from Juventini. If not, he's completely oblivious and he's an idiot. Okay? He knows damn well. And it's just something, in my opinion, you don't do if you're a Juventino, is just go to that club. Any other club would have been fine. I don't care. You want to try and dethrone us? Cool. Do it. If you go to Merda, I have a problem. A big problem. And for me, I have no problem saying it. It's easily Antonio Conte. Your thoughts?
God, I feel like if he joined Merda when he was a player, I would have picked him too. just because he's a coach, I give him a little bit like a pass there. Even though like I understand like the sensitivity of issue, and but I feel like the player I need to the person I need to pick should be like a player, because as a coach we know that the Juve's greatest managers, they all coach Inter as well, and or like other competitors like Lippi. I heard what you said about Conte, but uh, I, I I feel like I need to focus to find a player. And when I remember that like 2006, where we went to Serie B, and those players over there, I feel like all the players who, well, first of all, the big five or that like stayed with Juve, that's another story. But you cannot expect everybody to do that.
Exactly.
So it's inevitable for some players at their peak to go elsewhere. And I'm like, okay, so the next year is players who went outside of and play outside of Italy. That's why I give like Thuram a pass, even though his comment about like Juve who, like that still bothers me. But I'm not gonna keep it against him. I feel like Zambrotta is the one who went to AC Milan and played still in Italy, and for that reason I kind of like in that like vote or the poll on Twitter, I picked him just because out of that group he was probably the only one who stayed in Italy.
Yeah, for me, like, I look at it this way too. You've already said you can't expect the players to want to stay, right? So it's just something you can't expect. The 5 that stayed, that's extraordinary, and they'll always have that and always be in our hearts for that. But it's easy if you were to look at it as a player to kind of see, let's put it this way. Say you were playing for Juve, say to you it's a job, okay? And now all of a sudden, for no wrongdoing on your part, and it's not necessarily a guarantee of what's going to happen down there, But now all of a sudden, for no wrongdoing on your own part, you are relegated to playing Serie B. You could be at a certain stage of your career where you don't really know how much longer you're going to play. And some of those guys were younger. They were younger and they knew they had full careers, but still, maybe it's not the best exposure for them. They want to play. Like, I could totally see so many reasons. And when you look at the list of those players, you can kind of piece it together and just be like, you know what? I get that. I can. It sucks. Zambrotta, I loved Gianluca Zambrotta. I loved Zambrotta. He left his thing. It sucks. Thuram, I get those words. I love Thuram. Like, grew up with the guy. Like, it's
me too.
It sucks, but at the same time, you can't expect that. You can't expect that. Nedved, Camoranesi, Del Piero, Buffon, Trezeguet, incredible. The most incredible, Buffon, because that guy, it was a blank check from all the biggest teams, and for it's crazy, but you can't expect that. Even if Buffon had gone, I mean, you could have seen it easily. Here's the best goalkeeper in the world, just coming off what they did in 2006. Now all of a sudden he's going to play Serie B, and he did. It's crazy to me. It's crazy. So it's hard for me to stick that to those guys, because as noble as I want to be and say, oh, I would never flip on them, money talks. And if I got a year or two left, do I really want to play in Serie B? Like, who knows, man? It's hard, right? We can all sit here and say, no, I would never do that, and for me, I could say, no, I would never do that because I am a Juventino, and but
I feel like this would have been a lot easier if Bonucci, didn't, come back to Juve. We would have all like picked him.
Yeah, and even if you look at that, I mean, Allegri's had some issues with some players, and there's some tension there, and Bonucci's, I could see it, man. I could see it. You could see it from Dybala and Allegri. There's tension there. So, yeah. I mean, there's reasons and there's things that happen behind closed doors that you can't see, but it all comes back around to we can't take what those 5 did for granted ever. And we need to appreciate everything that's happened so far in this last decade. When we did our recap with me and Louis, it was unbelievable, man, to look back and just think of where we came from. Talking about that roster in 2010, and then like you look at where we are now, and it's like we're going for 9 straight. It's crazy. But for me, Conte's got to be that guy. I get it, how you say it's just coaching, but it's, everything he was to the club and where he took us from in the coach, as a coach. Yeah. We were coming out of that crap that those clowns put us in, and it's crazy. To me, that is the biggest. Oh, man, I can't even talk about 06. It's so frustrating. How it all went out, how it played out, and just it just makes me hate them even more than I already did. I despise that club with everything that I am. But yeah, I totally hear your reasoning on players and coaches, but for me, it's Conte. It's got to be. Yeah. But let's end on a little bit of a brighter note. I want to talk to you. I want you to give me your top 3 moments of the past decade, the ones that just stand out to you the most. And I want you to give me your favorite kits, home, away, and third, and limited of the last decade.
Okay.
So top 3 moments, it could be in any order.
Can it be like bad moments as well?
If you consider it a top moment, sure.
It was a top moment, and it's basically on my Twitter account. What's in the background is actually that moment where Gigi Buffon got the red card. Yeah. And got out of like the Champions League. It was just like, it was such a big moment for me, and I was really hoping that we would just like go through after that comeback from like 3-0. It was so big that I would just like wanted to mention that, and then the next 2, I would say winning the Scudetto in our stadium, Juve Stadium, for the first time. That's the next one. The third one. I'm just like thinking of big moments, and all the moments that come to mind is unfortunately it's just like all sad moments.
Oh no!
Why? Maybe it's because of this whiskey, but
yeah, I think you need to. I think you need to lay off the whiskey, man.
Yeah. I know. Maybe it's just because I'm thinking about like Del Piero leaving.
Let's think about a goal. Let's think about your top goal. Let's get out of the moments thing.
Perfect, great. So it's not in this decade, but like my favorite goal is basically the 2003 Del Piero's goal in that like 3-1 win against like Real Madrid. That's the goal I always like remember. Sometimes I'm just like trying to go to sleep and I can't, and I just like try to remember that match, all the goals, all 3 goals.
All right.
And Del Piero. That's my favorite goal of all time.
Now let's go with your favorite kits of the past decade. So your favorite home shirt of the last decade.
I would say the 2017-18 home kit, and I have it in like vintage Del Piero.
Nice.
number.
Nice.
I love that jersey.
Your favorite away one?
The away one is this considered the away or third?
I believe that one was the away. No.
So then I will go with this.
No, hang on a second. I don't think it was.
It was like the black one, maybe. I like that one too.
Yeah, that one was the third. Yeah, that one will be their third, I believe. So
I would. So I think if this was the third, the second one was that like black away, and I like that one too. I would go with that. That's my second away choice.
Okay. Yeah, because the black one was. You know what? That one you're wearing was the away. Sorry. So
okay.
The black one that you're thinking of, they used in the year that you're wearing that yellow one, which was 2013-14. The black one was used as a third kit. The year before, 12-13, that black one was worn as an away.
Got it.
So they wore 2 years. So you can actually alternate those ones. So the one you're wearing as of the away, and then the black one is the third. So what's your favorite limited that come out this past decade?
This recent one.
Oh, the Palace.
The Palace one. It's just.
Did you get your hands on one?
No, I missed on that. It was like because our time it was just like I don't know 3:00 in the morning, so I missed it.
Yeah, it's a tough
opportunity.
It was tough.
Yeah, it was tough.
That's awesome. Well, hey man, Mehran, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on. Thank you so much. It won't be the last time. Loved hearing all your opinions and having you on. It's been a blast. We've been interacting for a while now on Twitter, so it's good to have you on and finally actually get to meet you. And hopefully one day we're on the same coastline. We can get together and
looking forward to that.
Share a whiskey together and maybe over some good moments.
Yes. It's really funny, but
that's awesome. All right, man. Well, thanks again. I appreciate you reaching out to be a part of this podcast, and I appreciate all the support for quite some time now, man. I really, really appreciate it.
Absolutely. It's been a pleasure on my side as well.
Thank you, man. Everybody else listening, do the same. If you want to join me on the podcast, you got about an hour and a half. You want to just have some fun, talk Juve, reach out to me on Twitter, and let's book you a match. And we will be back after our match against Roma coming up on January 12th. That'll be a good one, I'm sure. Hopefully looking at a few future Juventini in Zaniolo and Pellegrini if I could have my wishes. So let's see what happens. But we'll talk to you all then. Thanks again, and as always, Forza Juve, fino alla fine. Ciao.